Better Buildings for Humans is powered by Advanced Glazings, makers of the Solera line of products. Solera is the leading glass glazing made specifically for architectural daylighting and with extreme insulation performance. Learn more at advancedglazings.com. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Better Buildings for Humans. I'm your host, Joe Menchefski, and this is the podcast where we take a look at the impact that the built environment has on our health, our wellness, our productivity, and our general joy of being alive. And of course, we always talk about sustainable design as well. And today we are going to talk about some very interesting things. We're going to talk specifically about a project that Advanced Glazings has worked on with Kaiser out of Pennsylvania. This is going to be a really cool episode. I want to welcome David Leinbach from Kaiser. David, it's a pleasure to have you here. And I'd like to welcome Terry MacGillivary from Advanced Glazings, obviously a close friend and a co-worker. Terry, wonderful to have you on the show finally.
Thanks for having me, Joe. Thanks for letting me talk about this project.
I was hesitant, but it's really great to have you here. So welcome to both of you. Let's start with learning a little bit more about David. David, can you tell us a little bit about your background and the path that led you to leading Kaiser?
I grew up in the construction industry, literally. Father was a general contractor, so you can tell by my age. I literally started in the field when I was right around 14 years old, cleaning the ditches, cleaning up job sites. So I literally started ground up, every aspect of the construction trade. Love the outside, love the outdoors. So construction was a natural fit for me. As I graduated from high school, I went to college and got a business degree. During that time frame, my dad got out of construction and was actually working for somebody else. So when I graduated from college, I actually was working part-time for Dun & Bradstreet. They offered me a job, but I could not see myself sitting on the 12th floor of an office building, 9 to 5 type setup. It just wasn't who I was. So I graduated from college. I started a framing crew and grew the business from a framing crew into a design build contracting company. At that time, we're going back into the 80s. Agriculture was big. We did a lot of custom horse barns, a lot of churches at that time, religious institutions. It was a big growth period, and commercial, etc. Today, we've morphed, believe it or not, going close to 40 years now, having Kaiser Group. We are probably 90-95% commercial, all types of different commercial construction. Still do religious work. It's not as big a field as it used to be, but a lot of various and sundry commercial, cold storage, food processing. That is really where our expertise lies, and a lot of design build.
And would you consider yourself part of the metal building industry, David?
Absolutely. That's low-rise steel buildings, as they like to call them, or pre-engineered metal buildings. Metal building assemblies, all different verbiage, but yes, we are an expert in that and all types of insulated metal panel work.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, Terry, it's your turn. Tell us a little bit about your background and the work that you do at Advanced Glazings.
Yeah, sure, Joe. A bit of an eclectic background, always technical. Actually, I started in geology, believe it or not, in doing geology work, exploration work, sciences. Did hard rock exploration, and then I ended up doing soft rock, doing oil and gas exploration in Western Canada. But then about 25 years ago, I did a career change into the construction side of things and bought a business. I had that for a number of years, sold that. A few other things I did, some consulting and whatnot too, but I ended up at Advanced Glazing with the owner, Doug Milburn. I knew him. He had this project. He said, I need someone to manage this project. And it's to develop a glass base. We'll talk about it, but essentially the SoleraWall system to get that up and going. And so I did that. I said, I'll do that for a year. That was about 8-9 years ago. It's grown. So I'm the product manager for SoleraWall, and it morphed into business development. That's how, Joe, you and I work together to figure out where to sell this, how to sell it. It's different from the products we've done before, and it's with a different audience, I think, too. So that's how we came to meet with David, 2 or 3 years ago, I think, David, we first met. But anyway, business development, and I'm actually also technical sales as well, too, for the company. So anything that comes up with our salespeople that's a little different, I jump into that. Joe, you and I jump into that stuff, too, as well. So
Got a big opening in your design and thinking of translucent wall systems? Be careful what you choose. Plastic turns yellow from UV, stops diffusing light, and in warmer climates can leak and fail in as little as 10 years. Architects, do you really want your name on that? SoleraWall is the only glass-based translucent wall system in the entire world, delivering glare-free daylight, thermal performance up to R18, and design that lasts. Put your name on glass, not plastic. Learn more at advancedglazings.com.
Yeah. All right. So thank you both for that background. Let's talk about this project. We're going to talk about a project in Eastern Pennsylvania that involved SoleraWall. Let's take a minute first to understand SoleraWall a little bit better. Terry, can you give us some sort of explanation as to what SoleraWall is, why it's important, and where it's typically used?
yeah, before I get into that, I'm going to back up a little bit and talk about Solera. Just for people that don't know, Solera is a glass-based translucent assembly. I always say it's a sandwich of glass with some cool stuff in between that do a couple of things. Controls the amount of light coming into a space. By doing that, also controls the amount of heat coming in. Controls the solar heat gain, but it also diffuses the light. So I always say you don't need as much sunlight as you think you do. There's a whole bunch out there. You don't need all of it. Probably need 30 some percent. And of that 30%, we'll spread that inside the space. And that's called daylighting. So our company, Advanced Glazings, has been doing that since, 30 years. But the application we had for the past 30 years was a glass unit that goes into some type of frame. We curtain wall, window wall, storefront. It doesn't matter. It will fit into any other frame that's already there. SoleraWall that is an evolution of that. It's the same concept, the same glass sandwich that does all that diffusion and all that stuff too. But it's a system. It's its own framing system. It has a sill, a header, a side jambs, and intermediate posts. Essentially, we fill the hole. If there's an opening in a wall, and that's why we call it SoleraWall, because it's Solera and a wall. If there's an opening that's maybe someone was going to put curtain wall glazing in that system, this is where SoleraWall fits, and it's unique. Actually, it's the only glass-based translucent wall assembly in the world. There's other ones. We'll talk about them later. There's other ones that the plastic stuff, but this is the only one that's glass. And glass is different. Glass is a whole lot better because it's going to last the life of the building. We'll get into that in more detail, but it's a system. It's a rain screen system. So the grid goes in, the panels go in, they lock in really simply, really efficiently. It's a rain screen system, so any water that comes in, it drops down and exits as well too. So really simple, really straightforward, and we're really pleased how it went with David's project, which we'll talk about in more detail.
All right, so let's go right into it now. David, I know you can't name the project, but can you tell us a little bit about it and then explain how and why SoleraWall came to be used here?
Sure. While we can't technically name the project, they are fine with us saying it's a government job. And it's a high-profile government job consisting of multiple buildings. But initially, it's a pseudo design build PMB, pre-engineered metal building system. We have 9 buildings on the site, and we were charged with the pre-engineered steel, the roofing cladding, which is insulated metal panel, and the siding, which is insulated metal panel also. So obviously, just based on those factors, you can gather real quick that they're concerned with the building envelope and the R values. And they are concerned with aesthetics too, of how it looks, but they were really concerned these are heated, conditioned buildings used all the time. So they were concerned with that. So without giving other product names, what was spec'd for this large opening in what is an automotive area, a garage, but yet a heated area, used a lot, type of structure that has some large garage doors on it that when they open up, obviously, especially in the winter, you're going to lose a lot of heat. When they close, they want to try to reheat the area quickly. So R value is very important. The other thing was with these big windows, it's a working environment. So clear glass, even some tinted glass, glare, etc., was an issue. So we saw what was spec early on, and it just so happened at that time Terry had been in touch with us, and we tried to utilize the product on a couple sites, but we thought this was absolutely an ideal situation for it. So we did approach the architects who were out of New York City, and initially we submitted it. Initially they rejected it. Terry jumped in with his expertise, and we answered all their questions of why they were rejecting it. And frankly, they just didn't understand the product completely. And the last hurdle that we had to get over to match what was originally spec, they wanted some fret lines in the system. And Terry was like, yep, we can do that. And so they did do that. So we answered all their questions. And when they saw the R value, how much better the R value is, the life of the product also is much, much longer. And on top of that, and they'll see this down the road because now the product is in, but explaining to them also the idea of, we're not getting glare. The light is diffused much better in the space, much more evenly. I think the end product they're going to be extremely happy with.
So it was a translucent that was there that was originally spec. Do you know why translucents were chosen for that particular application?
I do not. We weren't part of the project at that time.
Right.
Obviously, just from having used that product before that was spec, etc., they wanted to get a lot of natural daylighting in there. So that can be done in a number of ways. Translucent many times is less expensive than what I'll call typical commercial glass. But it also has its issues. I mean, we used it before. It works well, but it doesn't have the longevity. It doesn't have the light diffusion, and I might be using the wrong terms. Terry can clean that up. And definitely doesn't have the R value that this product, that Terry's products, SoleraWall, carries and has. So I'm excited to see also, once the project is completely wrapped up and in operation, to be able to walk through there and see the environment which these individuals will be working in.
Terry, do you recall what R value was used on that project?
Yeah, that was the SoleraWall R5, which is our minimum. We go R5, R12, and R18. But that's a boost. I think the original design for the translucent was R2 or something like that. Too. But just to the point, when I looked at the building on the plans, and I was on site a couple of weeks ago, I always look at the orientation of the building. Why, Joe, to your question, because we talk translucent language. There's two openings. One's on the south side, one's on the north side. It's a drive-through, as David said, a drive-through garage, but it's south-facing. You're going to get a lot of sun, by 10 o'clock till 2 o'clock. You're going to get a lot of sun coming in there. It's going to bake. If that's real glass, it's going to bake. If it's the plastic stuff, it's also going to bake, but that'll bake the plastic. You hear it break down the plastic and have to be replaced too. So, but I think that's why they want translucents up above the bay doors, get light in there most of the day, so they don't need to have the lights on as much.
David, do you think that your customer in this project, were they happy to be able to use a long lifespan glass versus a relatively short lifespan plastic?
I would answer that by saying yes, but they will see that as the project is totally done, etc. They were obviously very familiar with the product they spec.
Right.
So this is new to them. So it's, I know we're from the United States, you're from Canada, but it's the Missouri syndrome, show me, the show me state.
Yep.
So again, Terry told verbally, literature-wise, we've showed them all that. Now that the product is up, even though they're not occupying the building yet, they're very happy with what they see. And the other thing, there's probably at least 3 design professionals on this project, not just the architect, but the engineer, et cetera. So they each had different concerns. And, the one with these frets was a big deal, as Terry well knows. We solved that issue. They're very happy with that. The longevity, once we get their closeout documents to them and they see how it functions, I believe every year that goes by, they'll be more satisfied with what they have.
Yeah, that's an investment, really. It's funny, the story with Fred. I'm glad you brought that up. The actually lines. So part of the approval process I was helping David with, we were in a meeting with a lot of decision makers, and they asked about lines. They said, where are the lines? We had lines on the originally specified product.
Like a grid pattern, right? It was a grid pattern?
Sorry, yeah, a grid pattern. And the grid pattern's there because it's plastic stuff, and the plastic stuff needs strength because plastic is flimsy. So they put some rigidity in it and these lines, so little struts, and it creates lines. It creates a pattern. They wanted the pattern there. I said, we can do lines. It's glass. So it's a frit pattern we applied to surface 2 on it. It wasn't a big deal. Just, what color do you want? And that was the biggest decision. What color you want? We can do whatever you want. We've done that lots of times. That's the flexibility of glass as well, too. So interesting story. And it does look good. When it first came in, the glass started coming in. It was a light gray, and I don't really get that. But it was on the building, and it lines up with, once again, architects, kind of like artists. They have a vision, and there's the steel siding that David put up is vertically, has the striations, and so you see the striations there, and now it makes sense. It looks really sharp.
Right. So it was about aesthetics, and since the grid had to be there in the first place, everything was designed around the grid pattern.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. Now let's talk about the installation process. David, how did the installation go? Were there any particular learnings that you take back from that?
Well, I have to say this, we're very happy with the installation process because we always, and no offense to Terry, I think Terry told us exactly how it was. We're calculating the hours, but I think we came under what he typically told us to estimate because new products are always like, okay, yeah, I'm sure it's that easy. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to go that way. But we did spend the time on the submittal process. Now, these are large openings, but we did make sure we were square. Terry led us the whole way, making sure, we were down to the quarter inch, half inch. So it went very well. My project super on the site has been with us a long time. So anytime it's a new product, he too is always like, yeah, sure. Okay. Show me.
Show me, yeah.
But we actually beat the installation time. I'm not going to say by a lot. And just having a rep out, I don't know the gentleman's name. I wasn't out on site when it was installed.
Yeah, Kurt, yeah.
Yes, did a fabulous job instructing, showing, teaching, and it was not complex. I have to say that. It was not a complex situation. It was as advertised, which is a rarity many times. So we were very happy with the installation process and the end result.
Terry, did you want to add anything to that discussion of the install?
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that, David. And you and I met a couple of weeks ago, but to go over this. But talking with Adam, your guy on site, your foreman, had a good 45 minutes with him talking because I've installed it before. And the guys on site are so smart. Like they're innovative, they know, but he offers some shortcuts, some tricks, and stuff, that I brought back to our R&D side. As Adam says, you put soap and water on the U gasket, it makes it easier to adjust and all that stuff too. It's really nice and it's collaborative anyway. But Adam say, it's simple. If it doesn't fit, it's because it doesn't fit. Something's wrong. And it's like IKEA, like Lego, it just fits into place. And another feedback from Adam, we do a good job of labeling. We have a shop drawings, every part is labeled, and actually our parts through our CNC machine, and we actually engrave the part number on it. So you pick up this part and it has an identifier on it, and you find out where it is on the shop drawings. So we do it to simplify us, make sure everything's straight, we got everything right, but also communicating, just getting back to David's point on give as much information as you can, support as much as you can. The on-site thing is crucial. It doesn't matter. Yeah, I've seen it all. No, this is a little different. And Kurt was there for a couple of days, and then he said, these guys got it. It's straightforward. And that's what Adam said. It is straightforward. It's different, but it's straightforward, and we communicated. I'm glad to hear, David, the feedback on that, but we try to give as much information and support as we can because it's new. And even if it isn't new, if this is your fifth one, we're going to do the same thing and to make sure that you're happy with this.
So that is standard to the process, Terry. Anytime somebody's doing an install for the first time, we would send down a mechanical technologist from the R&D group to support that, or to yourself to make sure that it runs well.
Yep.
If I can jump in there, the importance of that. You had asked me earlier about pre-engineered steel buildings. Yes, we've been involved with them a long time. In fact, I'm the vice president of MBCA, Metal Building Contractors and Erectors Association, national organization. The one thing I'm always telling them is a manufacturer can have the best product. If it's installed incorrectly, it's a garbage product. And the same is true. You might have a mediocre product, but a really good installation can help that product. Well, in this case, you have a great product, and we want to make sure we install it correctly. So having good installers, installing it correctly is part of the team. It's got to be a team effort, or else you can have the best product in the world, lousy installation. You're going to get bad reviews.
Solar heat gain doesn't have to be a design challenge. Solera translucent glazing units help architects create buildings that not only work better, but feel better, balancing light, comfort, and energy efficiency. Discover how to design higher value spaces without compromise at advancedglazings.com.
Right. Okay, I want to ask a broader, more generic question, David. We talked a little bit earlier about, the fact that this new project has natural light coming into that automotive area, and they wanted that natural light. How often are you asked about that these days? How often do you have customers that ask about natural light or daylighting or bringing sunlight into these buildings?
I think it comes up quite a bit. And the struggle is twofold. People want natural daylighting, but then also the insulation values have continued to rise. And when you look at projects, it's a game of, okay, your building envelope has to meet certain criteria. And so while they want natural daylighting, how do we accomplish that? How do we do that? Meet the R values. And then the other thing is, in a work environment, in an office environment, this is where I think your product is really great. It helps with the R value. But it's great to have all these windows, and then everybody puts blinds and shades in them, because when they sit in their office, if you're the east side, south side, or west side in the evening, you're blinded, you can't see what's going on. So then all of a sudden everybody hates it, or you get a big solar heat gain, which is going to raise your AC bills or vice versa. So that's why we're excited about this product, because it takes care of, hey, we get the R value. We still fight the code many times on building envelopes, but you get the natural daylighting without the solar heat gain, without the glare, without somebody having to put up blinds and shades because they frankly can't see in the morning or in the evening, depending on what side of the building they're on. So it's asked a lot, but then having the right product to meet all those questions and those needs is, a lot of times we didn't have the ability to answer all that, or they've been in buildings where it's like, oh, it's great to have all this glass, but we got to cut back because of the other thing. And it can even be simple things as, yeah, we want a full glass wall, but we want filing cabinets up against the wall, or where do you put that? Well, if you have clear glass or even tinted glass from the outside, that looks terrible. This blocks a lot of that.
Right. Now, do you think there's a particular kind of structure or structures where SoleraWall is really going to stand out? You'd mentioned places of worship, gymnasiums, those sorts of things. Are there buildings where you think that there's a very clear special place for SoleraWall?
Well, I do. I think, getting it sold there, I think manufacturing is a huge one. And
right.
Now selling it to them, because it's going to be an upcharge, whether it's in the roof or the walls, whatever. But if trying to sell them on the long-term effects from employee health, employees feeling in a more open environment, I think we all know the benefits of sunlight. Right. But historically, that's not where you see it, because manufacturing, it's get the building up, it's what we're doing inside, not the cost of the building that's important. And so we struggle there. But there's a lot of applications we're seeing coming up from equestrian facilities, religious facilities, obviously any type of pools, gymnasiums, assembly areas, those types of things. I think there's a lot of uses for it. It's just getting the client to understand the benefits. And I think Terry said it earlier, and understanding that this is more of an investment than it is an upfront cost.
Right. Terry, is there anything you wanted to add there in terms of types of buildings?
No, but one hurdle, this is more of a general thing, but David, you mentioned earlier, I wrote it down, translucents are typically less expensive than regular glass. And then if you want them to understand translucents, the importance of translucents, but it's glass, so it's not the cheap stuff, because the cheap stuff is cheap, but it's glass, and it will last the life of the building. So that's a bit of a hurdle to get over, like, translucents, that's that cheap stuff. No, it's glass. It's going to last the life of the building. So, David, you talked about before the design build part of it, but you and I are talking about some other projects that in which we're looking at SoleraWall as well, to get in earlier with the owners, be the decision makers on the importance of designing a building that's really going to work, that's going to be worth more, once it's built and for the lifetime of the building. We always talk about the 20-year cycle of a building, the plastic stuff, and not to beat on them anymore, but 20 years time, you got to take them out and put other stuff in there because they don't last. It's like a donut tire on a car. They just don't last. So the investment on that is getting to the people, the decision makers, make them understanding what you're doing. And this is getting down the road on the soft part of it, but the people in those buildings, you talk about get the building up and whatever happens inside the building is most important. Well, guess what? The people in the building, maybe they're the owner's employees, but their wellness is important as well. They're more productive if they have natural daylight in the space as well too. So I guess the more we can communicate, the more we get in front of decision makers, the better it is. And that's why I'm pleased with this, what we did with David's project. And then David is tapped into a lot of other owners and decision makers as well to apply. They say, hey, it does work. This is what you want to do. This is what the ask is. And the ask isn't that unreasonable.
Absolutely. Okay. It's near the end of this episode. And there's a question that I ask every single episode. Okay. And I ask our guests to answer it from whatever perspective they would like. I'm going to ask David first, but you're not going to get to dodge it, Terry. I'm going to ask you as well. David, what makes a great building?
Aesthetics are important, obviously, but I think ultimately what makes a great building is the individuals who are going to be working in it, worshiping in it, or utilizing it, whoever's utilizing that building. And to see people 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years afterwards excited about the project is what makes us excited about it. Like I said, we've been in 40 years, going on 40 years next year in the industry. And we still have people call us about projects that we've done and saying, hey, I've been really happy with that building, how it performed, how it did this or that. Ultimately, that's where I find satisfaction in the construction trade, going down and saying, hey, I was part of that structure. It's still there. It still looks good. It's still operating. It's still functioning. And then even more so if you get to talk to the people that are utilizing it and they're happy with it.
Right on. Fantastic. All right, Terry, it's your turn. What makes a great building?
Well, Joe, I've heard you ask this of
105 times, maybe?
Yeah, I'm not caught up yet, but it's close to that. And some people are ready for it, and other people aren't. I was not ready for it. But from a daylighting perspective, I'm going to go back to my line. What creates a beautiful building? If it's a memorable building, if you walk in the building and then you remember the feeling in the building, and it happens with us. There's a little bit of side promotion here, but when people give the quiet wow, and they go like, oh, wow. It's cool in here. And they don't even know why, but it's a well-lit building. That's very memorable. I've taken people in buildings, like the one that David, when this is finished, I'd like to go back and have a look at that. I've taken in buildings and they walk in the space, it's naturally lit, and they have this weird look, weird feeling, and it's the quiet wow, like, wow, it's nice in here. And then they remember the feeling. I remember it. So that to me makes for a beautiful building.
The quiet wow. I love that one. All
Yeah.
right. David, before we go, do you have any news, any sort of announcements that you'd like to share or anything that you'd like to promote before we end?
Not that I can think of. I'm not a good self-promoter. But no, I'm happy for this relationship with Advanced Glazing. As Terry knows, working government projects, there's cash flow issues, and Terry and I have had the discussion. Their company's been good. He doesn't know us. We don't know him. In this day and age, you can sign all the contracts in the world, and it still comes down to, in my opinion, a handshake and knowing who you're dealing with. And they've been working with us very well in this project. Government can be a slow pay. It comes, so government can be so slow pay.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited about the relationship Terry and I have created. I've said this before, whether it's my banker, my CPA, or whoever. Companies are great, but my loyalty is really to the individuals who represent the company and not the company itself. It goes back to the product, great product, bad representation, I'm not buying it. So I've been happy to meet Terry and his group and really excited to work with them in the future.
Business is always a person doing in a relationship with another person. That's what it always comes down to. And I'm glad things are working out for you guys. Look, thank you very much. David, thank you for making the time to do this. Terry, thank you for making the time to do this. I appreciate both of you. Thank you very much. And have a great one. Take care, guys.
See you, David. Take care.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Better Buildings for Humans. For more information on the world's best light diffusing and highly insulating glass glazing, please visit advancedglazings.com.